Hey guys, I'm Mitch and welcome to the TheAudioDabbler YouTube channel. In this video, we're going to go over the PianoRoll editor and the controller editor inside of Xequence, so stick around. So we're going to go over the PianoRoll and the controller editor today, but before I get into that, I'm just going to do a minor housekeeping to kind of show you how I have everything set up right now. Inside of Gadget, I have 3 gadgets, and they are Advanced Midi, channels 1, 2, and 10 for the 2 Kingstons and the drums on channel 10. And inside of the instruments, I have them set to Gadget channel 1, Gadget channel 2, Gadget channel 10, and I also have the controller change number 12, which is inside of Gadget. If you go into Kingston and you click on Functions, you'll notice that 12 is the Effects Edit 1, and that is controlling a little bit of an EQ, kind of gives a little bit of a filter going on, and so that is that. And then I'm just going to go ahead and change the color of the drums, and then we'll get into the actual editor. And so now I'm just going to add a part. You just click on that and drag it in, and then to get into it, you simply click on the little icon in the bottom, or you can double tap, and that will bring you into the PianoRoll. So one thing you'll notice is this one is set to chromatic down here along the side, but if I go into like this bass, it's not set to chromatic. Well, what you can do is simply click on the icon up at the top, and that'll bring the controller menu up, the actual keyboard controller that you can use to play in notes. But I'm going to go over this controller because it has a lot of options in another video. But down here at the bottom, that's where you're going to be able to change your scale or your key that the grid for that particular part is set on. And so for the drums, I have it set to chromatic, so I just clicked on chromatic and clicked C. But for the bass part, I was just working in A minor, and so that's how I have that right there. We're inside of the PianoRoll editor, inside of that drum part. And what I want to do first, I'm just going to have it loop that part. That way, if I want to play it, it'll just loop this particular part. And you'll notice there's a grid. And this grid can be set to 64th, 32nd, 16th, 8th, 4th, or 2nd notes, quarter notes or second notes, half notes. Time can be set to triplets, or it can be set to dotted. And this relative, I'll go over in just a moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw in a simple note here. And as you can see, you just press it and you can draw in some notes if you want to. Now one thing you can do is if you press one or you want to change it, you've got vertical and horizontal scrolly things just like in the arranger view. You can also grow notes. But you'll notice everything is grid based. So if I set this to 16th notes, and then whenever I move it, it's going to move by 16th notes. And if I grow it, it's going to grow by 16th notes. And so that's really, really handy, really, really smooth to be able to add stuff in. There's also 256 undo options. So if I want to undo a note or redo a note, there's 256 in the controller and grid editor or PianoRoll editor. Another thing is the relative position. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the grid off. And say you were playing in with a controller and your timing wasn't perfect because you had the quantize off because you kind of want to give it a human feel. Well, if I move this up, and you can see where it's kind of off of the 6 right there. But it's still, if I turn the grid back on, it's still a quarter note, but you can see it's kind of off. Well, if I have the relative selected, what it's going to do is when I move this one, it's going to move it relative to the note, not relative to the grid, which is really good when you want to play stuff in, keep timing, not completely on the grid, 100% robotic. You want to have that human feel to where there's the kick is a little late or the kick is a little early or things like that. You want to add a variety. Then whenever you're editing the notes, make sure you have that relative selected because if not, then it's going to snap to the grid. But if you have the relative selected, whenever you start moving things around, regardless if it's 8th or 16th or whatever you're adjusting, it's going to adjust it accordingly to the note, relative to the note, not relative to the grid. And that is really, really handy whenever you are trying to get that humanized feel, but you want to still kind of move some notes around, but you want to keep it offset just a little bit. That's really handy for that. So next, let's take a look at the selection options. Similar to the arranger view, you still have a select add or select replace. And so I can click one, and if I have it on replace, each note that I click is going to replace the previous selection. If I have it on add, it's going to continue to add the notes to that selection. Once you have a few items selected, you have some options here. You can select the note, and what this will do is it'll go through and select all of the notes that have been selected. Now this is a specific note like E4 or C4. It's going to select those specific notes. If I go back here, go up here to this lead part, and say I want to select all of the B's, then I want to go here and I want to select key, and that's going to select all of the B's. But if I wanted to select the B's and the D's, then I could select keys, and now it's going to select all of the B and D notes regardless of the octave, whereas notes only does that particular note and octave combination. So C5, D5, whatever it is, if you select note, it'll only select that note. But if you select key, it'll select all of the notes regardless of octave. So if you have a C up here and a C way down here in the octave range, when you select one, you click key, it will select all of the notes. You can also invert the selection. You can do all or none, whichever one you choose if you're trying to select all of them. Okay, so we're going to go out. Let's go to the drum part. Let's not go to that one. Let's go to one I actually have built. And say I want to add a little bit of variety, and I only want to select everything that's on the one of the beat right here. So I can select that. I can go here and I can select beat. And now it'll only select the notes that are in the beat, that are on that particular beat. So if I want it on the number 4, let's select everything. Let's go beat. Now it's only going to select the ones that are on the 4 of that particular beat, or the 1E and part, depending on how you're counting the beat out. Now that I'm back into this drum section, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to select all and delete this, and I'm going to go over some of these magic wand icons. So I'm going to just click on the pencil icon. I'm going to draw in a couple drum hits, and then maybe a snare. I want to loop this part. Let me go back, make sure this one is just soloed. Go back into it, and you can see it's a little bitty drum part. So what I can do is select all of these, and then I'll show you some things you can do inside of the magic wand icon. You can flip the part. You can fill the part like that. So I just filled everything, and so everything that was selected was filled. If I did not want to do everything, if I just wanted to add this one note here, I could add that note. I could go and I could fill the part, and that will fill all of the part with that particular, all based on the grid. So if I had this set to 64ths, whenever I delete everything, you have the delete and add button down here. Say I want to add that, and then I go to fill part, then it's going to add 64th notes across the board. Now, obviously I don't want that, so I'm going to delete it. But back to the fill part, you saw that everything was filled up based on what I had selected. I'm going to go ahead and undo some of this stuff because I don't want that filled like that. So with this selected, I'm going to add it, and I'm going to move it over. Let me change the grid to 16th notes. I'm going to add one, move it over, add one, move it over. Alright, so with this last one selected, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here, I'm going to flip it vertically. And I'm going to flip it horizontally. I'm going to take these last notes here, and I am just going to flip them horizontally. And then we'll press play. Just add a little bit of variety. You can add, almost add your own little break there at the end just by simply inverting it and changing it around. So it's really cool, really handy to have with the magic wand icon. You can also quantize. So it'll quantize based on the grid. So if this note is a little bit off, say you did program some stuff in and you did want to quantize it after you've recorded it in, then you could select that note and you could select the grid that you want it to quantize to, and it's going to quantize to the nearest beat. If it's before the nearest beat, then it's going to just get to the nearest one based on the halfway point. So if it's over the halfway point between the two grids, then it's going to go to the next one. If it's before the halfway point between the two grids, then it's going to go to the one before it. And I can show you that. If I hit quantize, it's going to quantize it. Okay, so now we have these hi-hats up here at the top that I'm going to select. Let me just select none. Just use these selections. Okay, so now what I can do is I can ends, and what this ends does is it's going to move everything to it's going to quantize the end of the note. So if I got this to, say, eighth notes, or there are eighth notes. So we'll do quarter notes. What I'm going to do is I'm going to quantize, I'm going to do the ends, and that made everything eighth notes or quarter notes. However, whatever grid you have, it'll grow the note and make the end that note. With the drums, it really don't have that much of an impact, but with lead lines and things like that, it can have an impact on things. So continuing on with some of the magic wand icons, I'm going to go up here to the top and I'm going to add a new lead part. Just slide that over, go in, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select the icon here. Let's turn these to 16th notes. I'm just drawing some random notes and let's hear what that sounds like. Oops. Oh. I have to unsolo that. So it's really jumpy and it's playing the 16th notes. What I can do also is it has this legato mode. And what that legato mode does is it fills all of the ends. So it does what the ends does, but instead of doing it to the grid, it does it based on the start position of the next note. So you'll see this one will grow to the start position of that one. This one will grow to the start position of that one. So it'll adjust the ends to the start position of the next note. So let's see what that looks like in action. You hear what it sounds like. And so that's pretty cool what you can do with that. So let's kind of duplicate that. Let's play that part. Obviously that's not the greatest hits record, but that just kind of shows you what you can do. You can also select some and move things up an entire octave or down an entire octave, which is very handy if you need to just adjust everything up and down accordingly, or you can just move things up and down with the arrows selected. Alright, so we're back into the drum part. I'm going to just select all of those. Easy way to do it is just select one, select the note, and then I'm just going to use this icon and just drag them all back down to eighth notes like that. But a lot of common practice for hi-hats, especially when you have quite a bit of hi-hats and things like this right here, is to add a variety of the velocities. And so let's just select these notes and let's click on this icon down here at the bottom, the data type, and it's going to get, right now it's in note data type, but if I click on these three little lines here, that's going to bring me into velocity. And notice it's only, the velocity is only for the notes that were selected when I go into that. So I can still have the pencil icon here, and I can draw in some velocity variations to kind of give a little bit more of a human feel, and just to have the hi-hats kind of roll around a little bit. So let's okay, see that, I mean, that made that little drum beat even more dynamic and better, just adding those variations. And you can see now that I went back in, because all of them are selected, you can see the various velocities of all of the notes. And so I can go back in here and say I just wanted to add some accents on a couple of these kicks at certain points. Then I can go back in, and now those are there, and I can just use this menu right here, this scroller, to add some okay. So we've got that going on. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to automate. I already have one here where I've automated some bass. And you notice, remember back I selected, had number 12 here selected. And so what I can easily do is I can just say link these parts right here. And then because I have this one track here, I don't have to have it. This is not for note data, this is for CC data. So I can just add in across the board. And see, that's one thing I love about this app, is I can have multiple different drum or bass parts through here, but then I can have one filter part that goes across all of those different sections. So that really makes this app a lot more dynamic than some other apps, because of the way it handles the tracks and being able to stretch a automation lane across multiple little parts, and so you're not constrained to the automation only being inside of the one part. And so let's just go into that, and to get to the automation lane, you can see if you click on the data type, you got the notes, and then this will bring up the velocity, but this will also bring up, you can adjust the pitch, you can adjust the modulation wheel, or you can adjust the number. Now with the in-app purchase, you have access to up to 12. The standard app has 3 per instrument. The in-app purchase allows you to have up to 12. So now that you're in this, it's going to be similar to what the velocity and all the other things are. It's going to be dependent on the grid. And you're going to be able to just drag in the automation and draw it in. And you'll notice the slower I go, the more fine it's going to be. So if I turn the grid off, you know, I can really just go super slow. But if I go fast, then things kind of move along, you know, they grow respectively kind of how fast I do. Now one thing I will note is look at these as a separate little data point. So each one of these is a separate individual data point that's telling the controller where to go. You know, and so depending on your iPad and the performance, you may not want, like right here where we have all of these and they're all the same value, but it's going to kind of tell the app each time that it goes through. So one thing you can do is use this reduce button, and it's going to kind of reduce things down and make things a lot cleaner and not as many data points to help save performance if you're having any kind of performance issues. And it's not going to be audible to the ear if it's not as fine adjusted. See where I'm at. Loop part. Oh wait, do I have that? I have that solo, don't I? Yep. Oops, this is solo. so you can hear it adjusting. Another really cool feature inside of this, if I have some selected here, Magic Wand, you can quantize, and it'll kind of quantize some things to the grid. You can also click on this ramp, and then now you can see velocity curves or automation curves, so if you want to do more of a straight line. And now this is going to be grid dependent. If I go back to ramp, I can do like an S curve and things like that. Let me select a bigger portion. Actually, let me select this back portion right here. Let me select none. Select this back portion, and you'll notice when I click on the ramp that they're going down now. Before, when I had these selected and I go to ramp, they're going up. And so it's, if you've drawn a line up and then you go into the ramp and you've selected all those, it's going to go up. But if you've drawn a line down and you go into the ramp, it's going to show the way it's going to ramp. So that's a nice visual cue on how it's going to do that. Add one data point here, and it's going to go across the board. I can move it around if I want to. You can also flip things here. And so if I have, oops, that'll be good. I don't want to select all. I want to, oh. I always got to remember you have that pencil turned off if you want to select. So I have this. I can flip it vertically, kind of mirror it back and forth, which is nice to be able to do that. So you could draw in a curve like this, select some parts, flip it, flip it, flip it, and now you have a little bit of a, where it's kind of jumping around a little bit. And that takes care of everything inside of the controller editor.
Hey guys, thanks for watching this video. Leave a thumbs up if you liked it. Also in the comments below, let me know what your favorite MIDI editor is, whether it's on iOS, on Mac, PC, Android, Linux, Unix, whatever it is. Just let me know in the comments below. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you have not, and click the little bell icon so that you'll get notified once I put up new content. As always, I have a Patreon and a direct PayPal me link. All relative links are in the description for all the gear that I use, the camera that I filmed this video with. Everything is all in the description. Thanks for watching and have a great day.